Hey folks, good morning. So I'll be heading down in the woods here on my property in Ohio to move a stand that I just put up last week. I kind of had to rush to put it up because it was almost dark by the time I got it up in the tree, and I didn't actually sit in it. And then last night I went out to hunt and I got up in the stand and realized it just wasn't right. It didn't feel right. The angle of the tree, it's on a very steep hill, which kind of threw me off. I couldn't tell the angle of the tree because of the steep slope, and so once I actually got up and sat in the stand, it just didn't feel right. It's in a good spot, but there's it's a tough spot to hunt. It's a really tight funnel and pinch point with a really steep drop down into a valley, and I mean, that's one of the reasons those big old bucks use it, because they could safely get up through there with the wind in their face and not have to worry about any danger. So there is another tree that I found that I think will work out, so we're going to move that stand to that other tree. It's about 15-20 yards from the tree I originally picked. So just thought I'd bring you guys along. We'll move the stand, we'll talk a little bit about the funnel, the pinch point. I might throw up a mock scrape and see what else is happening. So hopefully Hunter will join me. It's a nice crisp cool morning. I should have been out hunting this morning, but I decided to sleep in today. I have a lot of projects I got to get done today, so I'm going to work on that today. So let's see if we can get this stand moved. All right, guys, we are down at the spot here, and old Hunter, here he comes. I guess he's coming along for the project today. Sometimes he likes to stay back at the warm cabin with the wifey and the kids, but I guess he's gonna hang out with old Papa Bear today. Okay, guys, let me talk to you a little bit about the setup I have here, the reason I chose this spot. So the stand is right there. You should be able to see it's about 20 yards from me. Now, I'm going to try to give you a sense of how steep this slope is here. So the top of the ridge is right up here, okay, and it just drops sharply. And then once you get down right by the stand, it drops very sharply, almost like a bluff right here. There's a little creek runoff here. It goes down in this huge deep valley, and it is just heavy woods for hundreds and hundreds of acres. Private land owned by one of my neighbors down the road, and they don't really hunt it that much, and there's just monster bucks that come up out of there every year during the rut, and it's just great property. So my property line's down this almost to the bottom of this into the valley, and the spot I have here is your typical pinch point funnel. Now in hilly country, it's easy to find these spots, but it's not always easy to hunt them. So what we have here, there's a main trail right here. You might be able to see it comes right up at an angle out of this valley. It loops around the point. So the point of this ridge is right here. It meets some other points. It kind of comes around to one of my other stands back there, about 80 yards or so. And the main trail's here, but there's numerous trails that converge at this pinch point. So this is like a pinch point that comes around the point of the ridge. And so there's trails near the top. They use the top a little bit, but most mature bucks, big deer, they typically like to travel just below the point, just below the top of the ridge. It's safer for them. They don't want to skyline themselves up there. They're going to have the wind in their face. So this perfect southwest west wind will be right in their face as they come up here. Now, some of those big bucks, they will use the top at times. A lot of deer will use the very top at times. So there are trails at the very top. You could see Hunter there. He's right near a trail that runs there. There's a trail that comes up this way. There are secondary trails that I guarantee some of the bigger bucks will use, some of the more mature bucks. They're less noticeable, but a lot of times those big bucks, the mature bucks, they will stay downwind of the main trails. So a big buck will have scrapes up on that top that they could scent check from down here without ever emerging out of this. They could tell if there's danger up there. They could tell if a doe has visited their scrape, and they could do it downwind on a very lightly used trail that you may not even notice. So there is a trail coming up here, and there's also a trail on the very edge of the drop here. It'll take them right up through there. So what you have ultimately is 4 or 5 trails that converge right here. Okay, there's kind of like bluffs right there, but this will funnel them. The terrain funnels them up to this point. So the key area is right here, because ultimately you don't know which trail they're going to be on, right? And I mean, when the rut kicks in, they'll do all sorts of crazy shit. So they'll completely do the opposite of what you expect them to do. But I've seen a lot of deer on this corner, and all the nice bucks I've seen from my other stand, they tend to move right through here. So that's why I'm trying to hunt it. But the problem is, it's tough to find a tree to be able to watch these spots and be downwind, right? So I think intuitively what a lot of guys would want to do is they get to this spot, right? They find these trails, and then they get up above it, right? It just seems logical. You're going to get up nice and high on a tree that's closer to the top of this ridge, and then you could shoot right down on these trails. The problem is you have a southwest west wind blowing this way, and you're up on a tree there, and those deer are coming from there. The wind's in their face. They're going to know you're there way before they even think about coming up the trail. Now, things happen, right? You have thermals, right? In the morning, thermals will rise, and depending on how strong the wind is, the thermal might overtake that, carry your scent away and up. So that is something, right? You could have a stand up there and be successful hunting in the mornings. You couldn't hunt it in the evening because the air is going to drop, right? The thermals are going to go downhill, so you probably wouldn't want to hunt in the evening. So that's why ideally what I'm trying to do is get a tree that's lower than the trails, downwind of the trails. But the problem is you got to get up high, because if there's a deer on this trail, he's almost eye level. You know, I'm still above him at this point, but what if he's up here where Hunter's at? That's about a 30-yard shot. He's above that point. So that's why it's so tough to figure out sometimes these pinch points and funnels. It's hard to find a tree. It's hard to get up high enough. And the convenient, easy thing to do is to sit above them, right? You could sit above them, have an east wind, and sit here, but they might not even come up this way because of the wind direction. So that's part of the fun, you know, strategizing, figuring it out. Okay, so with that said, I do want to stay on the downwind side of this. Even if I have to deal with thermals, I'd rather be on the downwind side of this so I can always hunt it during prevailing winds. So the tree I picked out is actually right over here. I think I'm going to opt for this tree here. Okay, it's a maple. It's got a little irregularity right there, but if I can get up somewhere right up in the where the branches up there are, I'll have good cover. And I'll have less than 30-yard shots to all the trails. Now, if a deer comes directly under me, that's going to be a really sharp angle shot. I'd have to wait until he passes by, or hopefully hope that he cuts up before he gets to me. So that might have to deal with that. But all the other trails, they're funneling right up here. And I have shots at just about all of them. And so that's going to be the plan. I'm going to get up in that tree. I might have to do a little trimming here. That's the other thing about trimming. I don't like to do too much trimming, because the more trimming you do, a big mature buck's going to know, right? A big mature buck's going to know I'm here already, just with the Polaris being here and everything. But I try not to trim too much. I only trim exactly what I need to trim for shooting lanes. if you go overboard with it, they'll notice that stuff. This is their backyard. They know it better than we do. So I try to minimize the trimming as much as possible. And if I do trim a whole sapling down, I'll even cover up that bright white little stump that's left, because that, you know, they'll notice that stuff. The big boys will for sure. So I got to get up and climb up and get that stand down. So why don't we go ahead and start there? Here's little Hunter. What's up, buddy? All right, guys, so I'm just trying to give you some perspective here. I'm down at the stand. We got old Hunter coming down, sneezing his face off. Hey, buddy, you go boy. You go boy. So you can just see the drop down here. You can see the big rocks. It's like bluffs. You can see the angle of some of the trees that fallen. Really steep. I got my stand right here. This sucker is up 30 feet high. Look at that. Crazy. So yeah, I got to get that down. So the tree I'm going to be in is right up there. I'm not going to have to go as high. I could get up to, you know, 20 feet or so, and I'm going to be high enough. I'm going to be able to cover all those spots. So I wish I would have noticed that tree at first, but I chose this one and it just didn't work out. And that's part of hunting, right? Strategizing, changing, evolving, adapting. So yeah, man, it's steep. It just drops way down into that valley. So we are going to get up there. I got my harness, my lineman's belt. I got an extra lineman's belt. I like to put an extra lineman's belt on my harness loop once I kind of get up there and start working, just to have a little extra protection, especially being this high. And then this drop is severely steep. So it goes right down. So I'm going to go ahead and get that going, and we're going to move. That's probably 25 yards, that tree, and get it going. All right. What's up? All right, I thought this would be an interesting angle for you guys. I'm going to go up, start taking stand down. Sun's right in my face. I had to drop the stand because I usually use the lifeline just to lower it nicely, and it got all tangled, and so I just decided to drop it. Okay, so I got the stand down, I got the ladder down. I also didn't use that second lineman's rope once I got up there. Just because there were some branches up at the top. I didn't feel like dealing with them. And this lineman's belt is solid. But I got everything moved over to the tree. So just taking a little coffee break. Sun's shining. It's a beautiful, crisp morning. Leaves are changing. I love this shit. I love this shit. Old Hunter's still here. He's sniffing around, kicking around. So, coffee break. Coffee's always good in the woods. I'm also going to take a stogie break. This one was a little dried out. It's been sitting in my bag for a while. I figured I might as well smoke it. So it's a brick house. So let's see if she's still good. Yep, still good. It was a little dry on the outside, but not bad. It'll do. All right, so I'm going to get the stand up. I'll save you the trouble of watching me do it. And I think from there, I'm gonna grab there is a camera up here I'm gonna grab. And while I'm out here, I'm gonna probably check all my cams. I got a few in this area. But I think I'm gonna also do a couple mock scrapes. I'll show you how I do those. They work really well for me. I've had really good success with those. So let's do it. All right, guys. So I have the ladder portion up. It's kind of a crazy tree because it's a little bit irregular. This is probably why I didn't pick it at first, but I'm feeling good about it. So there's the ladder. And you can see it gets a little irregular there. It kind of leans out, so I put a screw-in step there. Then it's comfortable climbing to the top. But in order to get high enough to effectively cover these trails up here, I got to go a little bit higher. So I'm probably going to be sitting at 25 feet. That branch right there that's sticking out, I'm going to have the stand platform just above that. I don't want to remove that branch. That's really good cover, because those deer coming up that valley, they could potentially pick me off, which is another reason I probably chose that tree, because that was way off the trail and out of line of sight. But them coming up some of these trails, line of sight could have them looking at me. So it's going to be a tough sit, right? Hunting these pinch points and funnels are sometimes tough. That's why they're so good. That's why the deer use them. So I'm going to get the platform above that branch. It's going to kind of be facing this way because I'm left-handed. Majority of my shots, you know, they're going to be all out here. Now I do have some family that will be hunting with me, and they're just going to have to kind of deal with that. Same thing when I hunt their stands, I got to deal with the right-handed setups, and that's fine. It's a nice big muddy tree stand. I love these tree stands. They're huge, so you got plenty of room to move around. They're comfortable, they're solid, quiet. So yeah, I'm gonna get back up there. I got to get some screw-ins a little bit higher, and I'm gonna pull the stand up and get her all set. And Hunter is still here. He's been keeping an eye out. He went on a few adventures out that way, and yeah. All right, let's do it. All right, guys, I just got the stand up. I sat in it for a bit, enjoyed the view. It's awesome. I love it. I'm really happy with it. It's much better than that first tree I chose. So take a look at it here. The sun's kind of shining, but it's definitely up there high. I'm sitting, you know, I'm sitting right around the 25-foot mark. Because the lifeline's 30 foot long, and the bottom of it, I got it wrapped up there, but the bottom of it's up off the ground. So I'm definitely up there pretty high, but such a great angle. I got lots of cover from all the branches and leaves up there. The other nice thing is I'm really not going to have to do much trimming, which I'm excited about. So there are a couple little branches. I'm going to see if I can get to them with my pull saw, knock them out, but I don't have to mess with it. Because I'm up high enough where I got good shooting lanes down onto the trails, and there's plenty of cover. So this is a good stand. There's a little bit of a tilt up there. I mean, the tree is irregular, so it's kind of funky climbing up there. I mean, if you're afraid of heights, then this wouldn't be a good stand for anybody. But it's safe. I got the lifeline. The stand is nice and solid. The ladder's solid. I got some screw-ins up there. Really good tree to sit in. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about this spot because it's definitely going to be a key spot, not only during regular archery season, but during the rut for sure. Those big boys that are going to come out of the big depths of the valleys down there that never see humans, they're going to be coming up here in November, end of October, looking for them Dorooskies. And I'm going to be here at this funnel for them. So this stand is going to be great for a southwest wind, which is our prevailing wind. The southwest wind would be blowing my scent right down into the valley that way. And a majority of the deer I've seen, they come from this direction. So my scent's going to be blowing. It'll be a nice crosswind. A northwest wind would be great too, because a northwest wind would actually blow in my face directly behind me. A west wind's going to be good. So any sort of west wind, this stand's going to be good to sit in. Even a north wind, it's going to be coming straight at my face. But yeah, we're pumped. So I'm going to do a little trimming, and then we're going to continue on. What a great day. All right, guys, so I just drove back up to the top of this ridge. So the stand is, I can't even see it from here. It's down there. Oh, I could just barely see it. It's really camoed in well. So even a deer up here, if you're not moving, even a deer above you may not see you. So that's good. It's You probably can't see it on the camera, but it's, I don't know, 70 yards down that way. So I drove up to the top of the ridge. The deer definitely move along here. And I don't know where old Hunter went. I think he headed back to the cabin. He paid me a visit after I got done hanging the stand. I think he went back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mock scrape and put a camera up here. So I was just looking at some of these trees. Like, these are kind of your typical trees where the deer will break these branches off and scrape up the ground. I love to use mock scrapes. It's a good way to get deer using the mock scrapes. I don't mess with scents anymore. I started killing bigger bucks after I stopped screwing around with scents, doe and estrus and all that stuff. If anything, if I do use it, it's more as a cover scent, and that's it. But I stopped using them years ago, and I've been killing nice bucks every year almost. So I think I'm going to do a scrape right on the main trail here. I'm going to go with this branch here. I'll just kind of show you what I do and how I set it up, and then maybe I'll put the camera up there nice and high, angle it down a little bit, that way it's kind of out of sight. Because those big deer, man, they'll notice those cameras. All the deer notice the cameras, so I try to keep them inconspicuous. I had a camera down on the funnel, and I actually had a couple pictures of some really nice bucks on it, but I'm not going to keep it there. I don't like to have a stand hung and then have a camera right there. A lot of guys do that, and that's fine. It's exciting to see what's walking in front of your stand, but a really mature, wise old buck didn't get that big and that old by being stupid. He'll notice and smell and know that I was there today. He may notice the stand too, right? They're not stupid. So the more stuff you have down there, the more it could be noticed, I guess is my point. So I'm going to have the camera up here on the top of the ridge. I don't have any stands up here. I'm not going to be hunting at the very top here. But I have a stand about 100 yards that way. And then I have the stand I just put up about 70 yards that way. So I'm going to do a mock scrape up here, hoping that the bucks that start coming through will start using it themselves. And that's the whole goal, is to get the deer using it. And then I don't mess with it. I don't bother at all. But it'll help keep deer moving through the area, help keep them on your property. Like I said, I've had some really great luck. I've started scrapes that have continued being community scrapes for years, on public land too, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to use this tree, and I'm going to show you just kind of how I do it. It's pretty simple. So let me get set up here. All right, guys. So I'm going to use this tree here to create the mock scrape. Now, there's obviously a licking branch here already. So I could just, a lot of times what I'll do is just create the scrape, and then that's it. I just scrape the ground, and the deer will start working this themselves. A lot of times what happens is the deer will come in and they'll actually break this branch down because that's not too high. They'll stand up and pull that branch down. They might break it down. So I'm going to take it an extra step and create a little bit of a licking branch. I'm going to turn this radio off. So you could do this with, it's good to, like a vine works really good because it's kind of flexible and you could hang it up. I'm using a sapling. It's something running through the woods. I'm using a sapling. It's nice. It's still live, so it's nice and soft. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bend down the top of this sapling, and I'm going to tie it up with a little piece of cord, just so we have a permanent licking branch hanging kind of in this vicinity. That way, if he tears this down, this licking branch will stay there permanently. And then they'll continue to run that preorbital gland right around the eye socket there on the branch. And that's ideally what you want. That's how the bucks will know what other bucks are in the area and stuff. And then the does, they'll come and hit it. So I like to do this randomly on my property. So this is within three stands less than 100 yards from here. I have one over here, one down there, and one down there. I also like to do these scrapes in the shooting lanes near my stands. I didn't do any over here just because it's so steep where that stand was. I I didn't mark any there just because it would seem unnatural. There's not really any level ground. It's just kind of a steep draw. But some of these other stands that I have, I always do a couple scrapes, and I don't do anything fancy. I usually don't even do the licking branch with those. The ones by the stands, the main goal of those scrapes, those mock scrapes, are to stop the deer. Any deer that's walking through sees one of those scrapes, it's going to come over and investigate it. Usually 99% of the time it will stop them. It will get them in a good shooting position. So it's great for that as well. And I'll just go and make a couple of them right around my shooting lanes, and sometimes they turn into live working scrapes that the deer start using regularly. So you don't even have to do the whole licking branch thing, but this is to try to create a more permanent mock scrape, is by having a permanent licking branch. In case they rip this one down, this one will still be hanging there, and they'll continue to rub their glands on it. All right, so let's go ahead and get this situated. I'll show you what I do. So the scrape's going to be right down in this vicinity here, right? So I want this to be hanging right about there, right? So I'm going to kind of tie it up there and have that hanging. So I have the root ends here, which is nice because I'm going to get it right up in the crotch of the tree here. Like that, right? Look at that. I mean, that's already a permanent branch. Like that. It's not going to usually come out of there unless the deer really yanks on it. I could hear Hunter barking. It sounds like he's up by the barn. I wonder if he saw some deer. So I'm just going to kind of bend this down a little bit. Like that. And now we have our licking branch right in the vicinity that we want it. There we go. And now I'm going to tie this root ball directly to this tree. That way it creates a permanent licking branch here. There we go. And there we have it. I might even just let that hang right there. Okay. So check this out. So we got our permanent licking branch right here. They'll also use this branch naturally. I got it affixed up there, right? And I just bent this down a little. Right? And that looks good. So now we're going to work the ground. I'm going to show you how I do that. Now you could just use your boot, your foot, right? That works fine, but I actually have my mock scraping tool that I keep with me. So when I'm out here with my Polaris, I'll use this sucker. So I found this on the property. Looks like hooves, right? And so I'm going to show you how I mark the ground up. Now deer, when they make a scrape, they're going to typically make sure there's no vegetation or anything in there. So there are some little saplings sprouting up here. So I'm just going to pull these out first. Now I'm just going to use this to work the ground up. Like I was already hitting my head. I was rubbing my eye gland on the licking branch. It's working good already. So you just want to get nice bare ground. Looks like there's some roots. Get those out of there. Some rocks. Get them out of there. All right, that looks pretty good. So there you have it. Nice 4-foot diameter. You could smell that fresh earth scent, and those deer will smell it too. They'll know that this is a scrape. They'll come check it out. Usually you'll see the hoof prints in there when you come to investigate. Licking branch, permanent licking branch. Then we have the live branch here that they'll probably use that whole setup to rub their preorbital gland on. They might even rub that tree. So you'll find if you put some effort into putting like a permanent licking branch, creating a nice big scrape like this in a good well-traveled corridor, that a lot of times it'll turn into a community scrape that'll be used over and over, year after year. Okay, so we got the camera up. Blends in really well with that tree. Let's aimed right at our scrape here. So looks pretty good. I think we got the angle right. Yep, angle appears to be pretty good. So just about any deer that comes through here is going to stop and check it out, smell it, look at it, maybe even start marking it. Like I said, I don't add any scent. I just create the licking branch, the bare earth scrape, and then I move on. So let's continue. All right guys, so I'm up here. I got a stand back here I put up. It's a ladder stand. I actually put it up primarily for my father-in-law Gordy, who's coming up to hunt with me and T Money in November. So he's almost 80 years old and he likes to use ladder stands. So I got a ladder stand back here. Again, this is another kind of pinch point right down in here. Part of the pinch point is that there's this giant oak that came down, and it's kind of diverts traffic around this point right up to this field. And then you got this field here. Now I created a mock scrape a couple weeks ago, and it's still being used. You could see they've started hitting that, and I actually have a video of a buck coming up working the branch and then working the scrape. So this was a mock scrape. I didn't put a licking branch. There's an oak branch sticking out here with lots of live branches hanging, so I didn't feel it was necessary, but they are using it. I could even see a turkey feather near there. But just thought I would show that to you, right? So I started that a couple weeks ago. It's clearly been marked up a bit. Last time I was up here there was some fresh prints, but it's really dry right now. I can't see any fresh prints in there at the moment. But all right, so I do have a camera at this spot, and I'm gonna check it out and see what we got on here. I'm gonna put one more camera out and then probably head back to the cabin. So thanks for watching.
What a soul is just a ride. What a soul is but that story. What a soul is just a ride.